Okay, is it recording? Okay, thanks. Okay, so I just wanted to say this is pretty easy stuff, people. It's not very, very difficult, but since our country has got to, I can't remember what status, junk status. The only way we can come back to investment status is if we improve our looking after money laundering and stuff like this. So this is implemented by the government, and it's a little bit extra things that we have to do. We've been doing most of this stuff already, and it's a living process. So it's something that we have to get used to and adjust to. So we've adjusted our contract a little bit to cover these things. We as a company have to have a RMCP, which is this paper that you've got, which says Risk Management Compliance Program. And we also have to have proof that we've trained everybody with this RMCP. So in other words, effectively, if you haven't done this program, you can't sell, you can't work as an agent unless you're in another company, and then you will have to have done their RMCP. So this is unfortunately part of the law, and it's actually quite easy. So what's happening is the government says that they want to catch people out that are financing terrorism and criminal activities that include money laundering. What they're not saying very loud, and which is actually probably a very big thing, is they're looking for people that's evading taxes. So that's my assumption. That's not in the rules and it's not in the paperwork, but I think that's probably where they're looking for people that are ducking and diving the taxes. So that's what we've got to look for when we do a transaction, as well as people that are potentially doing illegal things. So this compliance program is basically just to eliminate those things. So this is our strategy. If we put it into working and we start to find, but it's not working, so great, we can modify these things. Now Trudy and Chappie and I think Ross and Douglas and myself, not sure if Douglas was there, but we attended a meeting. I'm not even sure if Ross was there. But we attended a meeting with a company, Fox. Yeah, and they do all these things automatically for you. But they wanted to charge us something like 10,000 Rand a month. How much? 13,000 Rand a month. So this is the 0,000 Rand a month option. Because if we were paying 13,000 Rand a month, then we would be asking you guys to contribute. So this is better than that. This is a 0,000 Rand a month option. And it's not very, very difficult. So I'm just going to read through this risk management compliance program. And we're going to start there. The definitions you can read yourself. I've been reading this, but I'm just going to read it out. As estate agents, property practitioners, agents trading under the name of Gary Stone Properties, we are an accountable institution. So that means we are responsible as people, and not only us, but the lawyers and the banks as well. So the purpose of the RMCP is to identify, assess the risk that our clients might, during their relationship with us, be seeking to launder money or finance terrorism. So our obligation is to monitor this and to check for this and to report it if need be. So this document is set out so that it gives us a plan on how we're going to do this. So unfortunately, failure of any staff member to comply with this will result in termination, really, of our agreement, because it's either that or I go to jail. So this is pretty serious stuff. So what are our risks? Is that a purchaser might be using money from an unlawful source to purchase property, thereby laundering money. Okay, I've got in here 3.2 people trying to evade taxes. And then 3.3, the owner of a property might be using the income generated to finance terrorism, and that people might be hiding their identities, so that you have to investigate when you're doing a deal. So normally, every time we've written a transaction, we get the FICA later. Okay, but it's important that we have to identify the people that we're doing business with. And the question is, when do you really start doing business with them? And I suppose in real terms is when the offer is accepted. That's when we start doing business with them. But the problem is that we're not getting the stuff even after the transaction is done. And a lot of it's my fault, because when you're actually hot with the buyer or the seller, they're ready to give you everything. But it's when you have left it for 2 months and now suddenly you want to get it. Now it's a hassle factor for everybody. So we must make a point of this, and you will see that we've changed some of the forms so that it makes it more obvious. Okay, so who must we apply these rules to? Proper figure compliance and procedures in our client due diligence processes in accordance with this document must be conducted in respect of all clients. So even when you're taking a sole mandate, you need to do this. Whenever we are approached by a client and it appears probable, we will conduct a single transaction with the client. In other words, we are doing an offer to purchase. Now, I just want to point out we don't do rentals. So we don't actually have continuous business clients. So what we're going to do is every time, even if you sell the same people, let's say you sell 3 of their properties, it's not a continuous business relationship. It's a single transaction relationship, and we'll just have to figure them every single time that we go through a transaction like that. Okay, so compliance with Section 20A, relationships with anonymous clients and clients acting under false or fictitious names. So we are just, if we can't identify the client, we're going to have to cancel that transaction. So it's unfortunate. You know, I'll tell you something what happened when 2009 came along. A lot of guys were doing loaded sales. A loaded sale is when you lie and you say, we're selling this house for $1 million, but the bank is actually paying for the transfer fees in that $1 million. So in other words, you write a special clause that says the seller gives back to the buyer $10 for transfer fees, and as soon as you do that, you're lying. It's called fraud, and you can actually go to jail for it. So we decided we won't do that kind of business. There are lots of companies doing that kind of business, but think about it like this. If you're prepared to start doing business with somebody that's already doing it illegally before you even meet them, what's going to happen later in that transaction? So in other words, you're going to create problems for yourself. So as soon as we can't identify who we're dealing with, then we can't carry on with that transaction. So it's an ethical standard. We have to comply with the rules of the country. And unfortunately, if somebody is trying to cheat or trying to do... Now, I'll give you an example. I had a long time ago, 25 years ago, I had a guy, he bought a property through me, and his name was ABC. And then, a couple of years later, he wanted to sell another property, and he had changed his identity. In fact, it's happened to me twice. Now the oak's got a different name. So instead of reporting it 25 years ago, I thought, no, I just don't want to get involved with this. Just now the oak comes and kills me or something like that. I just said to him, listen, I don't want to do business with you. Now, I mean, ultimately, if you or any of you are involved with a transaction, of course we want our money. So we're going to try to push to get that money through, but at the same time we have to report it. Now, if we weren't suspicious of the person in the beginning, then we have to report it and we have to keep it secret. But you must also remember, if you report, if let's say it was me and you report me, you think I'm going to let you live? Eh? So it's like dealing with the underworld. We don't want to deal with these kind of acts. We rather walk away from that type of business than deal with people that are criminals, because that's in reality what's happening. Now, generally speaking, when you're selling a flat or when you're selling a house of 2 million, you're not going to meet those kind of underworld people, but you never know. And that's why they want the whole country's worth of estate agents to be on the lookout for this kind of thing. So we don't want to go and look for trouble for ourselves, but we have to make sure that the business that we're doing is proper business. So to do that, we have to establish and verify the identity of person. So with a natural person, it's easy, okay? Because what you need to do is you need to get his ID, and you need to get his proof of address. And we've been doing that all along. In fact, at the stage, we thought we needed to get tax numbers, but we don't need to get the tax numbers, not as estate agents. The lawyers might have to, but we don't have to. We don't have to do that. But so, in other words, when you're going to do a deal, people say, "What should I bring with you?" Say ID and proof of residence. The proof of residence can't be older than 3 months. Take a photo with your phone, and then you can send it as soon as you've done the transaction. So that works reasonably easily. When it starts to get difficult, is when you've got a legal person. And also, you would think most legal person transactions are easy, because a legal person is, say, a trust, or a CC, or a PDY Limited, or whatever else might come along. So now, normally there's a natural person that benefits from that transaction. So you have to say, well, I want the founding statement. So that tells you who's the owners of this company, and you have to get the FICA from every single person in that company. So in other words, if there's 10 members, you have to get 10 IDs and 10 proof of residence. So it becomes a nightmare. Now think about it like this. So now suddenly you've got a legal person. Let's say it's ABC Trust or ABC Company. And now you say, well, who's the owner of ABC Company? Okay, but now, yeah, instead of it being a person that owns that company, now it's two other companies, DEF Company and GHI Company. So now what happens is this transaction starts to be complicated. And this is exactly what they're looking for. Is they want to see who's the natural person at the end of the line that's actually benefiting from this transaction. So as soon as you get something complicated like that, then you have to delve into, and you have to delve further, and you have to delve further. So in other words, I haven't had one single transaction that has been as involved as that. But I've got a house in the market at the moment where I heard, haven't seen, but I heard that the owner of that property is a company, and the owner of that company is another company. So somebody told me that. So already I'm starting to get scared. Do I want to get involved in this? So I found out a little bit more, and apparently the one guy was insolvent. So somehow it's a system that they've built, because this guy is trading as an insolvent, and he's got other people signing for it. Now the question is it illegal or is it not illegal? The thing is, we have to investigate and we have to understand it. And if we say, oh, this is not illegal, I mean, the guy's insolvent, his mother's signing for him, and it's on that company, and his mother is looking after him. I don't think he's cheating anybody if it's like that. But we have to think. We have to think right through to the end of every single transaction that we're doing. Okay, so here's the thing that says ongoing due diligence. We don't have to do an ongoing due diligence. We don't do repeat business with customers. We're not doing rentals. So in other words, every transaction is going to be a single transaction, and we then will do the FICA of that person as soon as we do the transaction. So somewhere in here it's written, and it's probably will come up a little bit, there's a list, a special sanctions list. What's it called?
It's for the foreign people.
Okay, but is it just for foreigners or South Africa? But it's something, it's people that have been sanctioned around the world. There's a specific list. And I tested it yesterday. So in other words, if I type in stone, then all the illegal stone, people with stone in their name.
The TFS list.
Okay, but anyway, there's a list and it's referred to here somewhere. But it's so easy. You go onto the website, you type in stone, okay, there's nothing. Someone's now trying to catch somebody. And so, who's illegal? So I typed in Laden. And then some oak with Bin Laden, he came out. But it wasn't Osama Bin Laden, it was some oak else, Bin Laden. So there was one Bin Laden oak on the list. And then there's a lady up in Breyer Avenue. We were busy marketing her house, and her name is Ali. So I thought, well, let me just type in Ali, A-L-I. Yeah, and then there was a list. There's about 2 pages, but it works like that. If it's Muhammad Ma'ali or whatever it is, that piece of Ali, it picks up in the middle of that thing. So every time we do a transaction, we have to refer to that list. And if Trudy says to me it's only foreigners, then we only have
No,
to do
to everybody. I mean, I thought you spoke of the foreigners.
okay, no. So in other words, every time you do a transaction, we have to make sure who we're doing business with. So in other words, is this guy an international terrorist? Is he on the international banned sanctions list? So it's just part of our responsibility. And obviously, the bigger the transaction and the more unusual it is, we have to be on the lookout. So all these points that we've actually talking about, there's just things that saying, well, this is how we're going to deal with this is how we're going to deal with that. But really, what it is we've got to be alert. So there's no luxury of saying, well, I didn't know and I'm not prepared to do that, unfortunately. So I think a lot of this is a repeat, but one of the things that we don't do is we don't accept money. We don't work with anybody's cash. So this is a trick of the money launderers. This is how money laundering actually works. It's like going and gambling. Gambling is an easy way of money laundering. You go there and you put money through the machine and you win some money. So let's say you go, somehow you get some chips or whatever it is, you play and you win $1 million. So in other words, I've just won $1 million, but I might have put 3 million in to get $1 million out, but now I've got clean money. Now it's exactly the same. If somebody comes to buy a house and they buy in cash and then they cancel the deal and then they want the money paid back, then they say, but I got the money from that source, you see. So the threshold, I think, is $50,000. Also, you'll probably find that on many occasions somebody will come to you and say, listen, young man, I'll pay 20 grand under the table for you. Now it might sound like a way to evade tax, because that's what they're trying to catch you out for as well. But you have to remember that you could actually go to jail because you could be assisting with crime. And that's really what it is. That money from crime might come from an illegal source. So you have to, if you're working in an honest way, which all of we are doing, then we won't pick up any problems. I'll tell you of another thing that happened to me. When I just started as an estate agent, I had a house, and this is in the year 2000. I had a house on the hill here, Eben Roos Street, for 2 million rand. So 2 million rand then was a lot of money. And I got 2 guys, they wanted to meet me at the Burgers Park Hotel. And I went there. I can't even remember if they bought me a coffee or a beer or whatever it was, or if I just sat there. But they told me this lekker scheme. They said, listen, we're representing the king of Botswana. I don't even know if Botswana has a king. But they said, we're representing the king of Botswana. So what we're going to do is we're going to come and show him the house. And we're going to say this house is in the market for 3 million. And then he writes the deal. And then what we do is we split